Hello there, Senators, and welcome back to Star Wars Democracy. We're going to be talking about the Acolyte tonight. I rewatched episode 6 today and realized there's a lot of good stuff in there that we missed out on, I think, our discussion on Tuesday after the episode dropped. So I have with me tonight Journeyman, as always, and then we have Travis. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good,
Awesome.
good. Well, like I said, we talked a little bit before hopping on the stream here, but there's a lot of good stuff I think in the Acolyte episode 6 that I touched on it on Tuesday after the stream when Journeyman and I were streaming or during the stream. I am the type of person where I have to let a lot of things soak in, and I really probably should be watching these episodes twice before I give my full hard fast comments on them. So when I initially watched the episode, which we'll go around here and give our ranking or our rating out of 10, I guess, of the episode thus far. But when I had originally watched the episode on Tuesday, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Journeyman, where have you seen the episode again? And regardless of your answer, what's your rating? Just to refresh everybody's memory.
Um, so I haven't watched it again. I would probably give it the same thing, about probably a 7.5. Like
7.
I still like the duality part of it. That was like the big thing for me.
Sure. Travis, where are you sitting with the episode?
I would say probably a 7.
7. Okay, fair. Have you watched it again?
No, I've only watched one scene of the episode over again, and it was Basil like running around the ship trying to plug in the droid. That's the only scene I've rewatched because I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Basil is it's an interesting character. Obviously I'm curious to see if they do anything else with him the rest of the season. I don't know if he really has a place the rest of the season. I suppose maybe he'll get off on Brindok, and I mean he because that seems like where they're going. Saul and May seem like they're headed to Brindok after he gets into lecturing her about something, or he has her strapped down, and I'm sure he's gonna give her an earful is what it sounds like. But we'll see. After that, we assume they're going to Brindok, and then maybe Basil will get off the ship. But the thumbnail here is the stranger and Vernestra Rwoh, because I think one of the big things people are talking about in the fandom right now is the fact that, and I don't even know if we touched on this, Journeyman, on Tuesday. It didn't click for me in the moment. So remind me if we did. I know, Travis, you were there too, but the big thing going around right now is the fact that the scar on Chimere or the stranger's back. Okay. Did we talk about this on Tuesday?
No.
Okay. So the scar on his back is similar to what you would expect to see from somebody who has been whipped. Like, it looks like he was whipped. Well, who has a whip that we literally see in this episode? Vernestra Rwoh.
Yeah.
And we know that she's hiding something. We know that she's a little bit of she's pretty shady. I think that's at least what they're trying to get across in this series so far, is Vernestra's hiding some things. And I'm glad. I wanted to bring you, Travis, too, because I know you've read the High Republic books. I think you can speak a little bit more to her character than Journeyman and I can. But that's the thought going on in the fandom right now, is that she was his master. And I think that is, I think that it's pretty obvious. I'll start with you, Travis. Do you have any doubt in your mind at this point that Vernestra was Chimere's master? I mean, do you think that they've set that up for it to be pretty obvious, or are you still like?
I think he was just like with the canon, with the High Republic books, and without the context of those books. I think the fact that they show that scar and they show her lightsaber whip, specifically the end of it, towards the end of the episode. It's like a crane shot of her whipping it out, and you see the end of it as before she cuts that bug in half, and that demonstrates two things. Number one, it's a hint, hey, this is probably how he got that scar, or it could be. And two, it hints around that she's capable of doing something like that because she kills that bug without any hesitation at all.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's like, and again, that's why I'm glad I brought you here because I didn't even make that connection of like that was kind of a topic of debate, right? Was it episode 4 when Saul just, I mean, kind of no hesitation, right? Just slices it, and everybody was like, "Aren't these people Jedi? Like, aren't they supposed to, like they're supposed to care for like they don't do that kind of things normally." And so I think that's a good point. Is like without hesitation, not only do we see the light whip, but she does. I mean, she knocks that thing out of the sky. So,
and also to be fair, when you look at there's very little difference in Soul and Vernestra's reaction to that
yes.
bug. But
Mm-hmm.
what's important to note is Soul is facing that bug. He pulls out his lightsaber in the preparation for it coming down. It's basically, I'm going to cut this thing in half if it comes towards us. Vernestra has her back to that thing. The second that bug starts creeping, she just takes it out and cuts it in half without even, she doesn't even turn around. So you get a sense that whatever she's seeing right now, whatever darkness is like under the surface, it came out in that moment. So I think that's key. I think they were definitely saying something towards the end of the episode.
So without any doubt in your mind, I mean, it sounds like you suspect that's where they're going with this.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can see it.
Journeyman, like, I know we didn't talk about it a little bit on Tuesday, but does that theory make sense to you? What immediate questions do you have about that?
I think it would make perfect sense. I mean, it just from the evidence that you told me, like it would make a lot of sense the way that they go about that. Because who like at this point, who else would we know that has a lightsaber whip like that at this point to make that kind of scar?
I mean, it could just be. I mean, he could have just been whipped. I don't know if it necessarily has to be a lightsaber, but I think the point that they made of
right
to hit again on what Travis is saying, the more I thought about it, they didn't have to have that scene, right? I mean, they didn't have to put that scene in the show. And I think to again just hammer home on Travis's point, not only did they make it a point to show her with the lightsaber whip in the same episode with where his scar is revealed, but they went, a step further to show that this is whatever darkness is lurking underneath her is demonstrated on screen in the same episode. So I think that's a really good
point. They made a focus of showing the scar like pretty evidently in the episode. Like she kept looking at it and they kept panning over to that. And so I think if you're just looking at that, they're trying to make it a point like this is something you need to at least be looking out for.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I want to dive deeper in a little bit to how this would play out chronologically, or how would it even work? Because Vernestra Rwoh's been around for a long time, is my understanding, over 100 years. I think she's over 100 years old.
116. 116.
116 or 160.
16, depending on if this is 100 years after the High Republic begins or ends. It's safe to say 116.
Okay, so she's been around for a while, and I think I want to touch on this briefly, and then I want to switch gears slightly, and then we'll come back to it. But one thing I found interesting, I was taking notes while watching it again. A lot of people are drawing attention to this particular statement made by Chimere. When Osha says, "So you were a Jedi," or just something like that, and he goes, "Yes, a long time ago," and Osha goes, "Well, I've never heard of you," and he goes, "It was a really long time ago."
Yeah, and that's the question. And another question that I had is like, I wasn't thinking of it, and we never talked about it, but it's like when he says a really long time ago, I was thinking like, okay, he's youngling, but he emphasized like it was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
So like, how old do we think he is then at that point?
So I want to
hold that we're asking.
Yeah, I want to hold there for a second. We're gonna circle back to that, but I want to go back to you, Travis, and it's okay. I mean, if you don't have if you don't have a prepared answer, but I'm curious, would something like, let's assume that Vernestra is the stranger Chimere's master, or was his master at one point, and let's say that she did use a whip against him and gave him these scars. Is this something that's in line with her character, or is this something that we would not expect from her? Not saying it's not possible, but is this something new for her, or something that would actually make sense based off of what we know as her character? And I'm asking again for audience. I haven't read the High Republic novels, so Travis has.
I haven't read all of them. They're still
not
going.
all of them. Sure. Mm-hmm.
But I am going to say, yes, that does kind of add up. And I'm also going to say she's not a bad person. That's the scary part. So you mentioned before, like you weren't sure if other people had lightsaber whips. Well, the Night Sisters did during this time. And that's a big point of contention in the novel Test of Courage, which is this first book where Vernestra Rwoh is a major character. She appears in the first High Republic novel as just a side character. And in Test of Courage, we meet her as a 16-year-old.
Okay.
And this is when she first makes the modification to her lightsaber, where she adds the whip. So it's also important to note that the lightsaber she's using as an 116-year-old master is the lightsaber she made when she was a 16-year-old Padawan, which is really interesting, and I think can hint around at some other problems that might be lurking. Okay. And so when she makes this lightsaber modification, she does so because the Force tells her to. But when she makes the lightsaber, she's afraid to tell anybody. She thinks if she brings it to if she goes to the Jedi Council and says, "Hey, I turned my lightsaber into a whip," she has a feeling, rightfully so, that they're going to say that's not acceptable. Like, you can't be doing that. So from the beginning, Vernestra is kind of she's always driven more by the Force and the will of the Force than the will of the Council. Mm-hmm. And I apologize. What was the original question that you just?
Well,
sorry.
I was just no. You're fine. I think that's it. I mean, obviously she likes to hide things from the Council. Is what I'm.
There's a few. There's another one that's hinted at in the episode. It's a direct callback to the High Republic. You remember the part right before they get on the ship with I didn't even know the guy's name. Mog, apparently.
Mog. Mm-hmm.
Did they say that?
Mm-hmm.
In the episode?
Yeah.
Oh,
he walks in, and I was paying attention to this episode. He walks in and he's like, "What do you want, Mog?" or something like that, or "What is it, Mog?"
Oh, I thought that was maybe I thought that was just an insult or something, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you call him that? But
it's his name. Yeah.
So if you remember, he mentions hyperspace to Vernestra, and she says,
yes.
He says that I think he puts the words in her mouth that she finds it unsettling or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he says it makes her nauseous, and then she says, "I find it unsettling." Yeah. There's more to that, a lot more to that. So in the High Republic, it's first happens in Test of Courage, I believe. Whenever she goes through hyperspace, the Force starts speaking. She starts having Force visions because of hyperspace that start telling her to do things and start telling her starts coming into play later, but it's very vague messages like go, run, you're almost there, keep going, and then she'll find herself running. She'll wake up, come to, find out she's running around the ship, but she's ended up nowhere. She doesn't know what this means. But this all ties, this comes full circle later when we find out it's the visions she has are actually of the future. So when she goes into hyperspace, for whatever reason, she starts having visions of the future, and it starts allowing her to go, "Oh, I can see something really bad about to happen." So I think there's some hints there too of that. And in those books, it isn't presented like an ability. She sees it as a violation of sorts, kind of like when Kylo Ren was going into Rey's brain or whatever. How it's sort of I'm being forced to feel all of this anxiety without me having a say in it. So I think it's interesting that they brought that up in the episode.
So that was okay. So is what we see or from what we know from her, would it line up for this type of situation where she's potentially like abusing her apprentice, or potentially tried to kill her own apprentice, or like obviously she used her lightsaber against him. Is that in line with what we expect from her character based off of what we know from the novels, or in your opinion, I guess?
It lines up with the failure she inevitably set herself up for. So in the first book, Test of Courage, the inciting incident, and it's weird because the High Republic model was you would have one adult novel, a middle grade novel, so for teenagers, and then you'd have like one for older children, like 8 to 11. Her real introduction was in Test of Courage, which was more of a children's book. Weirdly, in the children's book, it begins with her and a few other Padawans crashing on their ship gets attacked by marauders called the Nihil, and all their Jedi Masters die. So they're all stranded on a planet, and one of the Jedi, Imri Cantoris is his name, becomes her first apprentice because they're around the same age. They're both 16. I think he's a little bit younger than her, but she's 16, and he takes it really hard that his master is dead. Her master wasn't on the ship, but his was. So when his master Douglas dies, she takes it upon herself, in addition to having to survive whatever planet they crashed on, she senses like his rage towards the Nihil, the people that blew up the ship, because they're now on the planet with them. So she takes it upon herself to not only take him under her wing, but pull him back from the dark side, from that temptation. And then he becomes her apprentice from that point on. And interestingly, apparently Star Wars, the website, they do have a data bank after each episode, and they explain what things are called after the episode, which I didn't know. They'll explain like what the locations are. We find out, and I didn't know this until a few days ago, her ship that we see her on is called the Cantoris in this episode. That it's named after her apprentice from those books, who obviously is a human being, so he's probably not around anymore. 116. So we have Vernestra, who's hiding her lightsaber whip, hiding her force visions. She doesn't tell anyone about these initially, and she has like a weird connection to her apprentice by naming an entire ship after him, which is kind of odd considering the Jedi code about attachment. But it also is more telling that she willingly chose to take on an apprentice who is experiencing darkness and thought, I can bring him back from this. So if Chimere was her second apprentice or another apprentice, and he was also on a dark path, it really does line up with the kind of person she is. Maybe she is that Jedi Master who's like, hey, I was able to stop one kid from going dark. Give me all the kids that are going dark, and I can set them on the right path. And then obviously arrogance sets in, and you don't know what you're getting into. It becomes too much, and then you create a monster. And then that would line up with the scar on his back.
Yeah. So, wow, I have a lot of questions. So before I'm gonna save this question, but I'm gonna just to keep on the topic of Vernestra Rwoh. To my knowledge, isn't there a situation too where I can't remember if I was watching a video or I read this somewhere, but isn't there a gap in the timeline of where she kind of like disappears for a while, right? She becomes like a Wayseeker or something.
Yeah, Wayseeker, which I brought up before. Now I think it's starting to come back there. I think they're gonna start bringing it up in the show. Oh, do you know what a Wayseeker is?
No, Journeyman, do you know? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Enlighten us.
So it's interesting because this is further reflective of the Jedi of the High Republic versus now. So a Wayseeker Jedi is a Jedi who, instead of following the orders of the Council, follows a call from the Force. So someone may get a call from the Force saying, hey, you need to go here and do this. And basically, they have to go to the Council or their master and say, hey, the Force is calling me to do something that's outside of what the Jedi want from me. I need to leave and go. I need to go on my own. It's almost like a missionary, sort of, to an extent.
Yeah. Okay, and it kind of sounds like that Barash Val or whatever it was called that we see in the second episode.
It's
Similar.
it's a pilgrimage larger than the confines of the council. It's sort of like, okay, if the Force is what we build our religion on, that's higher than us. So if you feel a direct call from the Force, go that way. That's yes, because some stuff happens. Bad things happen with basically like a lot of death happens, and she decides like, I don't know if I can be the Jedi I need to be with the Jedi, because I'm like there's too much anger and there's too much grief, and I need to go I think I need to go my own way. Which is interesting because now she's back with the Jedi. We're going into territory of the newer like new books like within the past year that I haven't gotten to, but I have like kind of an idea of where they go.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So we've established that this is within the possibility of her doing this. It's kind of like I don't know. We could probably speculate all night long on how, he got those scars and what actually happened. My suspicion is maybe it's like a Last Jedi type of deal where she senses the darkness in him and she's like, I got to end this. And maybe she attempts to kill him.
My question is, at that point, could this happen before like the Acolyte show? So like when she's way seeking or whatever, is that like, since it's a big time gap, is that where she finds Kymir? Or like comes along?
Yeah, well, and that's kind of that was the next point I was going to bring up, is a lot of people, again, to go back to the point of where he says it was a really long time ago. How old is this guy? And I think they're setting up a situation where maybe and I haven't played the game, but what's the second Jedi game called?
Survivor.
Survivor. Okay, I think they're setting up a tie-in / situation where maybe he was like left in a bacta tank to heal, and he's been around for a long time, and he's just like kind of woken up, and now he's on a mission to
kind of like
get
his revenge
situation. And Journeyman, you and I touched on this on Tuesday. We were talking about what does it mean. Vernestra keeps saying to tip the scales, something to tip the scales. And it seems like he's dead set on some type of revenge mission, and he's taking advantage of the Brendock massacre as a way, because there's so many layers to this, and this is kind of why I'm starting to really appreciate the show as it's getting closer to the end, because now everything is starting to pay off. But what he talks about at the beginning is like an acolyte kills a dream, and like you don't kill a Jedi with a weapon. One of the theories that was being floated around at the time is that he is actually the acolyte, and he's using what's a way to kill somebody without a weapon to get somebody else to do it for you. And so he's using May and now potentially Osha as a means to enact his own revenge on the Jedi, and he's not having to use a weapon to do it. Now, of course, episode 5 kind of like blows that up a little bit, but the point still remains of like that's his goal, and that's what he's trying to do.
But if that were the case, then all the other Jedi, or at least May killing that by poison, that kind of.
Yeah, but I guess my point is he's his whole, because he was the person who told her that. We didn't know who he was at the time, but he's like,
sure,
don't kill a Jedi with a weapon. The whole point was don't kill him with a weapon, and he was fine. If he was trying to do that, he was able to kill the Jedi without a weapon because he was getting somebody else to do it for him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, then his mission would have already been complete. Now, what is it about?
Well, I don't know if his mission is fully complete. I think he was using May. He says in the episode, what is it, the 5th episode, he wants a pupil. Right. He wants somebody to teach. He wants somebody, again, so many things. In the 6th episode, he talks about the power of 2. So that also brings in, are they trying to do a force dyad situation here? Does he was he not only leveraging and taking advantage of the twins' past to kill Jedi, but does he also know that there's something about them, something special about them, that they can do some kind of dyad in the Force?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I like Journeyman's point a lot about the possibility of Chimere being an apprentice she had during the High Republic, which I didn't even consider. I don't think it's likely, given how young she was. But then again, there's a lot of wiggle room where we might not even know if Chimere is a human being, or and we have seen the dark side used to change someone's aging. If you remember in Attack of the Clones, it's a very subtle detail that you won't notice until you look at it. Palpatine looks really old in Episode 2. He has liver spots on his face. His face is sagging. He almost looks sick. Episode 3, he looks perfect. It's like, what happened? What did you do? It's almost like he used and Ian McDiarmid himself has said that when filming Return of the Jedi, George Lucas told him that Palpatine is well over 100 years old. Like, it was older than that. He gives different numbers in the interviews, but he says he was trying to give him the hint that you've been around for longer than a human being should. And I think that lines up with this idea of the Jedi belief in like becoming one with the Force. That's the goal. It's how many things, like, because the Force is everything. How many things can I do? How many actions can I commit outward and affect people positively in my lifetime? Where a Sith is, how much can I take in my lifetime? How long can I keep this going? Like, how long can I hold on to material existence, even though I look disgusting doing it? It just like Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker with his disgusting like fingers falling off and stuff, with being held up by a claw machine. He's so caught up in his power, but he doesn't realize how pathetic he is. So maybe it's possible Chimere is a lot older than we think he is. Also, I don't know how old the actor is compared to the actor who plays Osha in May.
I don't know.
It's possible he could be almost 40 years old, that actor, and then the actress playing Osha in May might be like in her 20s. So that could be like 10 years, could be a long time ago. But I'm not sure.
His name, Manny Jacinto, I think is his name. 36 years old.
36. And then what about the actress? What about the actress playing Osha?
Amandla.
She's got to be like 25, right? 26.
She's the same actress who plays. She's 25. She plays Rue in the Hunger Games. So 10 years, 11 years.
So even that, like, even just keeping it grounded, 10 years is a lot. Like, if they're using the actor, so 10 years is a long time. So that could be just what he's talking about.
I don't know though. I mean, I agree with you. Like that in of itself, like you like keeping it grounded as possible. But I think they're really going this route with. There's also a lot of theories being floated around there that, you know, the pool scene, the infamous pool scene, there's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. But what if it's a healing pool and he's using that as a healing pool? People have been floating that around. What if someone was even, I think it was Mike, a guy who loves Star Wars, is linking this all the way to Abeloth, which I love Mike, but I'm like
I don't see the connection, but okay.
Well, she bathed in the pool, and that's how she corrupted herself.
I'm sorry. I'm imagining.
Also, I did see a thing that's not Octu, by the way. I think we talked about that for last stream. Like, that was Octu. I saw something that it said it was not Octu.
Yeah, it's not.
It's meant to look like it, but it's not.
We can talk about what planet it is, because even though it says it's unknown planet, I think there's a Legends connection there.
The rocks look different. But that's because I'm a nerd in a different way. Where I'm looking at the mount, I was looking at like the rock formations, like, oh, that's not the same rock. That's that one's sedimentary, that one's dead. But no,
I can picture you with a magnifying glass. That's not that.
Okay. One gripe I've always had with Star Wars is every planet that we go to in Star Wars is always presented as the one place we go to on that planet, if that makes sense. Tatooine is a full planet, but we always go to Mos Eisley or Mos Espa or Mos Pelago. Wherever we are, we're near the Sarlacc pit. We're near the same stuff every time. But meanwhile, if we went from what state are you? Like, where are you from, Journeyman? Or where are you right now?
We're both from the Midwest.
Midwest? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if you went from where you were to California, instantly the topography, the geography, the climate, the animals, the plants, everything is different. That's just going like halfway across the country. I think there's a possibility, like, we don't, in Star Wars has never explored the idea of what's the other half of Coruscant look like. If the whole city is one big planet, wouldn't maybe it be a different kind of city on that side of the planet? They don't, but yeah, it kind of makes the planets feel small because instead of like the equivalent of going up the street to get a chocolate milk in Star Wars is, I'm gonna go jump into Lightspeed, go into the next star system to talk to this dude, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude.
I mean, that's one thing. It's a small thing, but that's one thing I've noticed just in this episode. Every time they go to Kofar, they go to that same darn village every single time, with the exception of May and Chimere. They landed somewhere else, but every time they land in that same village, and I'm like, you have a whole planet you could land on. And you brought it up too, Journeyman. You were like, why do they always land in the farthest possible place that they have to walk?
I get it, because George has always said it's supposed to be an adventure, so they're trying to make it an adventure there. But I'm like, is there literally no other landing zone around? Like, we did not, like, Star Wars did not think of building another landing zone. Like, come on now.
What are those people doing there? Like,
I don't know.
It looks like there's an evil forest with bugs, and there's like a field, and then you just have like a bunch of guys sitting on crates smoking cigarettes. And I'm just like, what are you guys? Did you like get lost and you're too afraid to admit it? You're just like,
I mean, you would think at one point there'd be a traffic jam for that landing zone.
Well, nobody's going there, I guess. I don't know.
No one's going anywhere. I didn't see the whole time we were there. I didn't see one of those people stand up. They were just sitting down, like the people in Wall-E. I'm just like, do you guys do anything?
Yeah.
No. When they first showed up, like, and they didn't ask any questions. Like the Jedi, like 15 Jedi and a gopher showed up, and then you all came back, and then one sad-looking Jedi, the gopher, and some lady came back, and no one said like,
no one said, hey, what happened to your crew?
It's like they just have, I don't know. This is getting kind of outside the universe, but it's like, I think it's like they just don't want to spend the money on building new stuff, and they just keep using the same stuff. I don't know.
There was one interesting editing / pacing thing that I noticed at the start of the episode, and it stood out to me, but I could be mixing up scenes. Do you remember what is the first scene of the episode?
I actually wrote it down. She wakes up abruptly again.
Okay,
Osha.
She wakes up with Chimere on the planet, and then we cut to the ship leaving with Sol and Osha on it.
Correct. There's no dialogue for a solid 3 to 5 minutes. She's just kind of looking around. She goes outside, and she sees him walking, and then it cuts to the ship.
That was bizarre, because at the end of the last episode, Chimere is just finding Osha, and Sol and May and Basil are just getting on the ship to leave. Then this episode begins. Chimere and Osha, who would have left later, presumably, because they were just in the middle of the woods, are already where they're supposed to be. And then we cut to Sol and May just leaving. I'm like, wait, that's interesting. How long were they there?
That's a good point.
Unless they were just kind of like throwing you off by mixing up how the time period. It was just a really weird pacing choice.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, to make it make sense in my head, I just have to assume that the timing of it, I don't know, is something. You're right. Something doesn't line up with that exactly, but it's kind of that's kind of just makes sense for the show. I feel like at this point, I
like Tony's message, by the way, about the guys sitting on the crate.
Hey,
those guys are making money betting who comes back from the port. I love that.
There you go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That is good.
That's always forever gonna be my Star Wars lore from now on.
Yeah, which reminds me, I've seen his messages come through. It's good to have you here, Tony. Thank you for being here. Let's go through some of these real quick. He says, so the stranger will get Vernestra to kill Soul in revenge for Vernestra throwing him out of the Jedi, leaving him to die. So the stranger will get Vernestra to kill Soul in revenge for Vernestra throwing him out of the Jedi, leaving him to die. So it's like he's trying to set her up for something.
Okay. Okay. I kind of see what Tony's saying. That's interesting.
Okay. What do you think?
So Vernestra does say, she says she has that line where she says something to tip the scales.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as, and maybe I could be wrong if that, maybe my thought was that line was said somewhere in the start of the show at some point, and I just forgot it.
Mm-hmm.
Who says it the first time?
She does. She says it twice. She says it in the first episode. I can't remember exactly. She says something to tip the scales, and then she says it again in this last episode. She's like something to tip the scales. Like she knows like something's coming.
Maybe she had a force vision of something when she went through hyperspace. That could be a possibility that they're hinting around, because having that little Easter egg in there for the High Republic fans, I don't think that was it was sort of telling the readers, hey, watch out, there's something, we're hinting around to something.
Well,
like you've been reading.
Yeah, well, and something that I didn't pick up on completely in the first time I watched it was when she goes to Kofar and she's walking around in the forest, she's reliving what happened. She can hear Soul's voice. She can hear the lightsabers clashing. She can hear all of, like, she
which is
knows
kind of
what
like
happened.
what Cal Kestis has. Like, she's able to kind of feel what's going on around her. Although Cal has to physically like touch everything to like get the visions, but she's able to do it just by being there.
Yeah, which I don't.
I just thought of something. I saw something awful. Imagine if they got there and like Chimere to throw, like they find all the Jedi in the woods, but before Chimere left, he just put like beer hats and like empty beer cans everywhere to make it look like they all just got wasted at a party. And she's like, I see through the deception.
Yeah. Well, so going to back to the Mog character, like I brought this up in the program, the podcast we were listening to yesterday, is like the Mog guy, he did not want her to go on that mission. He was like, but Master, you get sick when you travel through hyperspace. And then when they get to Kofar, he's like, oh, it was just a bunch of whatever those insect species were. He's like, nobody could have survived that. Okay, time to go home. And she's like, no, we're going to check it out. And then they get there and he's like, I can't remember what he says, but then he immediately jumps to the conclusion that it's Saul. He's like, somebody very powerful had to have done this. Do you think Master Saul would be capable of doing this? And she's like, well, that's a heavy accusation.
Well, I thought he said Master Saul was like one of the only people that could take all of them, something to that nature.
Yeah, he may have said something like that, but he immediately
and then she says that's a strong accusation.
He's trying everything possible to get the scent off of the trail of what happened. So I think he's a Sith Lord. I'm just kidding. I think he might. I mean, he might be a Sith Lord.
Yeah, he saw the aftermath and he said, "Oh, he's like, my gosh, Master." I don't know if he had an accent or not. Master Soul bought them all the booze.
Yeah,
and then Master
it's all his fault.
He has like a receipt in his pocket for the liquor store. He's like, "Oh my god, they think I did it." But
they're setting him up hardcore though.
But what Tony brought up, it goes back to what the Chimere says in the second episode. He says, an acolyte kills the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony just made me think, and this could be obvious, but I think it's one of those things where you could, once you put more thought into it, it becomes more clear. What if Chimere is just trying to, he's basically, I think of like Soul, what Soul's going through right now. I picture kind of like Abraham and Job in the Bible, what they went through. Like they're just undergoing these trials. Like everything is just being taken away, and it's a test to see if they break or not. But I think Chimere is the one. He's sort of just like trying to prey on all the weaknesses, because if you remember, Yord says he has the ability to get in your head and just stay there. He can see everyone's weakness, and I think what he wants to do is push all of these Jedi. Like he's getting in all of these Jedi's heads because he's presumably interacted with all of them at one point. That's what we're led to believe. Vernestra especially. He's preying on all of their weaknesses and setting up their own insecurities so they turn on each other, which that sounds very basic, but when you actually think about it, you're like, that is actually kind of sick, and like you could see it working. So I think that maybe that's what Tony is saying. He wants to see he wants like something to tip the scales, and killing the dream, well, you kill the optimism of the Jedi by doing that. He doesn't want to like kill a Jedi without using a weapon. You just make them all like turn against each other, and you make them all betray their own beliefs and everything. And it's, if you look at how every character has behaved up until the point they died, or where they are now, it really lines up, I think. Even Jackie, she was taking that personally towards the end when she's trying to hold down May, and she keeps repeating like everything she did. It doesn't really feel like she's being just anymore. She really is. She's like really angry. And I think Chimere, he waited until she got to that point and then killed her. So sure, not just killing the innocent one, but I took away her innocence when I did it. She wasn't as pure as she was when she got here. Something like that. I think that's like a kind of, do you guys get that vibe at all?
Yeah, no, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Is like, it goes back to what you mentioned and what we're talking about is, if I had the technology and the ability to pull up that segment, I think it would be really neat to go back, and I'll probably do it after the stream, to go back to the end of the first episode and hear what he actually tells May, and see how that's starting to line up with what we're seeing in the show, and how he's actually how we're actually seeing that line of thinking play out on screen. He's definitely preying on their weaknesses and using them to kill each other. I mean, Soul's gone rogue at this point. I mean, he's like, I'm not even. They are like, make sure your transponder or whatever they called it stays on, so we can come find you. And he's like, turns it off.
Immediately turn it off.
He's gone rogue. Vernestra's flipping out because
she can't find him.
Well, she can't. I mean, I assume at this point she knows that her apprentice, who maybe she thought was dead, is now lurking in the shadows and is tipping the scales and coming to bring her revenge. I wrote down Senator Rayencourt, which I don't know if Senator Rayencourt is the person who, we don't see this. I don't know if it's a he or she is in the episode, but the senator who she's talking to on the hologram is referring to Senator Rayencourt, and how he's wanting, or she is wanting, an external review of the order. And she's like, no, like, we're not doing it. Like, she does not want any oversight at all into what is going on with the Jedi. And so she's hiding something. And I think her world is crumbling down all around her. All the other Jedi that we know in the show are dead at this point. So it's like, Chimere is very much winning.
There's a noticeable omission, and I don't know if they're intentionally trying to make us forget about her, but Yord's apprentice that we saw in the first episode, you feel like she would be, where is she right now? Like, her master's dead. Presumably she would be the only, if Yord's the only one who understands Basil, presumably she would too, because he's teaching her. And she seemed more, when confronting Osha in the first episode, Yord had some semblance of recognition and like, hey, you're my friend, but I kind of have to be professional right now. His apprentice seemed very cold. Did you guys notice that? Like, the way she's like asking all the questions, like where were you? like it's just very, she like brings up all the bad things she did, like Osha did or whatever, or what she. So I think I'm wondering when she's gonna come back into play, or if she does. That would be interesting too.
Yeah, I don't know. She could have something to do with it, I suppose. I also just wonder if she's. I mean, one thing that I think has been really interesting about the show is they really are depicting the Jedi as like a police force. Like we think of them as like Obi-Wan says in episode 4, the guardians of peace and justice, which, okay, to an extent. But when you think about it, they're just like cops. I mean, even in episode 4, he's like, one of the Jedis is like, in the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic and the Jedi Order, please come up with your hands up. It's like, this is like an episode of Cops.
So, yeah. So back then, they're considered cops. But then, remember what Obi-Wan and even Anakin says, like, we're soldiers now. Like, he even said that to Ahsoka. Like, we're soldiers now. Like, we basically turned into military leaders.
In a time of war in the Clone Wars. But they thought that they were just noble monk. I mean, and that's what I think people are having an issue with this show, because they're depicting a Jedi in a certain type of way. A lot of the people I'm watching are saying like they have a problem with Disney era Star Wars because they're portraying the Jedi in this very negative way that George never really intended it to be. And I understand that perspective, and I agree to an extent, but we knew from the prequel trilogy that they were never really they were not perfect. So this is not really new. This is just shedding light
we
on
knew
stuff that
the galaxy was basically peaceful, but there will always be things going wrong within the galaxy. It's not like they were just standing around and doing nothing. And I feel like that's the perception that people have gotten, and that they're just it's at a time of peace and tranquility and justice and all that. Like,
but as the Sith would say, as Kymir would say, peace is a lie.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, does everyone expect that they were just standing around and like just training all day? It's like that.
Yeah,
like that. That's kind of the question that I would ask everyone.
Well, I mean, even based off of Travis's fabulous short, summary of what's happened. I mean, his short summary of the High Republic, he mentions Jedi dying and all kind. Like, it was not this time of peace that we really take it for.
Well, also, it was really a period of the Jedi in the High Republic, because I think going into the show, a lot of people maybe who knew about the High Republic were expecting this to be an extension of that, but it's really, it's more of a realization that things went bad a lot quicker. Like, things went bad before the Phantom Menace. Like, things were bad. Things are getting bad now. But like in the High Republic, the Jedi team up with the Hutt cartel because they're just like, hey, we have a common enemy. Let's do this. They had Wayseeker Jedi who were going out and basically more open, saying, hey, if you feel a call to the Force that's beyond what we're telling you as an order, then go do it. There was more elasticity. There was more openness. It felt like the Jedi were more outgoing. At the time of Phantom Menace, they're very dismissive and cold. Qui-Gon Jinn really being that last Jedi who kind of upholds that open-minded view. His apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, calls Jar Jar a pathetic life form. Well, actually, no, he doesn't call Jar Jar a pathetic life form. He sees Jar Jar and says, "What's this?" Which I always thought was really rude. I'm like, wow. He calls Anakin a pathetic life form.
Yes.
A child. And I'm like, wow. And when Anakin is being interviewed by the Jedi Council, and they're just like, oh, what does the macaroni picture say, young Skywalker? And then he's just, but everyone's just like staring at him. Like, they're just like Mace Windu's just like this. That was weird. You ever notice that in that movie? Mace Windu's just doing this.
No, like, but now I gotta go back and watch it.
Yeah, now I gotta go back on.
He has his arms slung over the chair, like he's like, yo, George, what should I be doing? He's just like, just look cool. Okay, just look really relaxed. Like, unsuspecting of your own untimely end. And but they are very condescending, and like they're trying to make Anakin feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel welcome. Like they're just sitting there surrounding him, looking at him. That's not at all what the Jedi feel like in the Acolyte. When they're about to, I think it's when Osha's about to leave, and I think episode 4, and then Soul comes down and says, "Hey, I need you again." You remember like how many Jedi were just like quickly walking throughout the hallways? It looked like an airport or something. Like the Jedi in the Phantom Menace, it's like two or three Jedi walking as slowly as possible, while Yoda floats as slowly as possible. Like, hey, I think I'm thinking we should do something about this. You know, it's like, maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like it's very like they're too slow. They're out of shape spiritually and physically, I think.
Which is when, I mean, and yeah, that's when Palpatine makes his move to.
That's what Palpatine is doing. Like this whole move was about giving the Jedi junk food, giving them giving them like darkside biscuits, so they get all tired and they just don't want to do anything anymore.
Yeah, which I mean, to go off of that, I think that this is really the beginning stages of that, and honestly, I think that's where season 2 could go. Is like they're just going to continue to show the decay of the Order. Obviously, I think that's where they're going. I saw Tony posted another comment right after he said this. So he said, so the stranger will get Vernestra to kill Soul in revenge for Vernestra throwing him out of the Jedi, leaving him to die, thus killing the Jedi without a weapon. So I think that's the point that we're kind of like all hitting on here is he's carrying out his plan. Chimera is carrying out his plan by the means of manipulating people to do the dirty work for him, is what it's really coming down. So, let me see if I had any other notes. Do y'all have any other things that you want to touch on while I look at my notes?
Well, I had kind of a bigger question, kind of prediction-wise. Where do we think? I know we still have a couple episodes left, but where do we think Osha and May are going to end up at this point? Like, are they switching sides basically, or like what's going on?
So she puts on the helmet. Osha puts on the helmet. In a very Darth Vader-like moment, I feel like. I mean, you hear breathing. It's like you can literally. It's almost like a direct, callback to Vader when the mask gets put on him. Which, on like at face value, I would suspect that they're trying to show the fact that she's. Just as Anakin kind of like died in that moment and Vader was born, I'm like, okay, maybe they're trying to say like the Osha we knew is gone. This is the dark version of her. But based off some things that I know, and I don't want to get too spoilery, I don't know this for sure. I don't think that that's where this is going. I think in the end, she's going to turn back, and I think it's going to turn into Soul, Osha, and May against Chimera towards the latter end of the season.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, because I still think Osha has good in her. I think she's just confused. She just really wants the truth about it. She's a good person. She just wants the truth about the whole thing. And so she's just kind of in a confused state. That's what I think.
What do you think, Travis?
I agree with that. And I feel like there's some people, I don't look for the reactions online to like for people to see what people are saying, because it can be really nasty sometimes. But I feel like there's people going like, why would she just put on the helmet? It doesn't make any sense. And it made perfect sense to me. Let's see. Yes. When Osha puts on the helmet, first, actually, I'll ask you guys, why do you think Osha puts on the helmet?
I think that it has what Tony says here.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think is what Tony says here. And I think it's not so much what I think. I think it has to do with Leslie Headland has already said. She was listening to something commentary today. I guess she didn't take issue, but she never really liked the whole thing about Anakin, where he's supposed like the whole there was still good in him type of thing. And what she never really, I don't want to she had an issue with that. And so what she is doing in this show is showing the opposite of that. Of okay, she's doing a variation of this. They're still good, but there's still darkness instead. Like there's this person is comes from good, but there's this lingering darkness. It's exactly what Tony says here. She has darkness around her, and I think that's her darkness is. I mean, the whole Chimera is just manipulating her the whole time, and she knows that she like. What I found so interesting with the second watch, she knows he's manipulating her. She's like, she says, Did you give my sister that same speech or something like that? Like she knows what he's doing, and she's just going along with it.
Well,
and
I think that's kind of where my point goes. Is like, so what does she say about, or what does Chimera say about the helmet again? Like it gives clarity basically to everything.
It's made out of
It kind of just,
cortosis, so he said that when you put it on, the only thing that's there is you and the Force, basically, or something like that.
right. And so my thinking to that is going back to kind of like my confused, her being confused, is I feel like whether she knows, like you said, he knows he's manipulating her, but maybe the only way to kind of drown everything out is to follow his instruction of being like, go ahead, put it on. And so, like, curiosity kind of at that point would get the better of you and just being like, I want answers at this point. Like, I don't care necessarily. And so I think that's why she puts it on, is she's like, I've kind of had enough. I just need clarity. I need it to be me and myself. And so that's why she puts it on.
Yeah, that's a really good take. It's like I don't want any outside.
I'm trying to point to him and say, yeah, that was a good point, but I failed miserably. Good point, Dirty Man. Great.
Yeah, he or she's, like she's had all this people around her whole life, like having this influence, and she's like, I just want the answer, and I want the answer for what it is. No manipulation.
And that's starts with her at a young age. Like May wanted her to stay. Like she had the influence of May wanting her to stay. She's been having people tell her what she wants her whole life, and she made the choice to go with the order. She wants to make the choice of like, whether, I know she's not, has no influence around it, but she has all the questions around her and she wants no doubt about it. And so, like you said, what you're getting to is she just wants the answer.
Yeah, no, that's a good call out for sure. Cause I think that is, if that's not what they were going for, I think that makes a lot of sense. She wants the clarity, of what's going on there. Bring Travis back.
God, the Sith sense we're onto something, so they're trying to shut down the stream.
The Jedi are taking over.
He's like, yeah, you can't get they surrounded our stream with cortosis, so our Wi-Fi signal can't get through.
Yeah, Sam Jackson's coming.
Yep.
In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic,
I really like
you're under arrest, Chancellor.
Oh no, they arrested Travis again.
Oh,
I actually kicked him out that time.
no.
Travis, come back.
Oh, Ellie's in the chat. Hi, Ellie.
Oh, Ellie. Welcome, Ellie. We're talking about the Acolyte, and I just arrested Travis. So hopefully he comes back soon.
Also, he wants you to move to your right a little bit. So no, wait. Oh, just
I don't know what you mean.
Well, once Travis gets back in here, yeah. Now move over here to the right.
Back.
No, other right.
Me?
This way?
Yeah, Tony said, like, could you move over to the right, Ryan, so that you could have your face be over the Jedi's body?
Oh.
Oh.
I get it. I'm following.
Oh, yeah. That's Vernestra. I couldn't tell, but now I can. Okay. But I was wondering when you said that you had Vernestra and Chimere, and I didn't. I was like, I see Chimere, like he's at the club right now. But I was just like, oh yeah, we just have Vernestra. Probably what Vernestra is going to look like by the end of the series. To be honest with you, she's just going to be cut. She's going to be cut in half.
No head.
But there's going to be a nice shout out to Star Wars Democracy right above her corpse, like, and it's going to pop up on the screen, and everyone's going to be like, "Ooh, Star Wars Democracy!"
Shout out to this channel for making this show.
Yeah. Please give me the shout out. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'll take the shout out.
But yeah, building off of Journeyman's point, I think that's the likely answer, and I'll be the one that goes way too deep on it. But my first thought when I saw it happen was, well, why would she put on the guy's helmet? And then I thought, what was the first thing we saw in the show with her? It was two Jedi showing up and saying, "Hey, we think you committed a murder because you look like your sister who committed murders." Mm-hmm. And she's just like, "Oh," and everyone keeps calling her everyone keeps confusing her for May. That's the one who did this. That's the one who wrecked my bar. And everyone keeps not even trusting her because of May. Even when they know it's Osha, they still don't trust her. Mm-hmm. And I think she's spent her whole life linked as a twin, an identical twin to this other person, to get, I don't remember exactly what the nursery rhyme was that they said to each other as kids, but
yeah,
I think it's this idea where she's finally, she just wants to break free from being associated with somebody else. She wants to have her own face. So when she puts on the helmet, that's the first time she can do it. She's just like, I don't look like anybody else. I'm just me now.
Well, that's her whole reason for wanting to join the Jedi, or one of the big reasons, right? Is she's like, I don't want to be with you, May. I want to be my own person. I don't want to go down the path that you're doing. I want to be my own person.
It was the sense of adventure, like Anakin. I want to be my own thing. I want to do my own adventures.
But there's a dark implication there. How many Jedi wear masks? Not really. You have Plo Koon, who I thought that was a mask. That's just his face. He looks like someone shoved a Transformer toy inside an apple fritter. That's what Plo Koon always looked like to me. But he looked like. But the thing is, I think part of the need that Osha has, part of the want that Osha wants, is she not only wants to be something, she wants to be her own. She wants to be her own person.
Yeah.
The Sith wear masks, the Jedi don't. So the second she's on the side that's allowing her to have a new face. So when she puts on that mask, she's now one instead of two. I think I feel like there's that's part of the reason that temptation is there. She's like, I don't have to worry about someone confusing me with somebody else, for better or worse. People are going to see that mask and they're just going to go, oh, and that's that's that person.
Well, and to piggyback off that a little bit, there was a lot of theories going around at the beginning of the show, really the first 3 episodes until the 4th episode. There were the theories going around that they were actually the same person. It was more so the first 2 episodes, people were like, okay, maybe this Osha and May are the same person. And, because we never saw them on screen together towards the end. And when they did see each other on that planet, they were the only 2 people to see each other. So perhaps it was just a little bit of a vision of sorts or something like that. And then when we see the twins and we see May survive at the end of episode 3, people are like, okay, they're not the same person, but whatever. One thing that people keep bringing back to, and I don't know if it's just bad, I don't know if you'd call it writing or what you would call it. Why does she keep waking up so abruptly? Is there anything to that, or is that just mere people they're not paying attention to how they portray this character on screen. She keeps waking. She's like she wakes up like she's having a dream or some type of vision.
I feel like every character of Star Wars does that though. Like
yes, but
Kylo's done it, Anakin's done it.
But the same, I would get if it happened once, but it keeps happening to the same character over and over and over again. I think it's at least happened 3 times.
You know, I don't want to go too deep in that theory that they're the same person, but you just open a can of worms in my brain, or I'm like, you know, as kids, they looked completely different.
Yeah.
What if one of them died? And it's
so. What are we saying? Like the Black Ops situation where Mason thinks that has a friend, but yet it's just been Mason the whole time doing these missions?
I don't think so. I feel like there's way too much to contradict that being the case, that they are the same person. But if they are a dyad in the Force or something like that, we've seen Luke teleport himself partially across the universe. But since Rey and Kylo Ren Rey and Ben Solo were a dyad in the Force, as Palpatine would say, a power like life itself, they were like effortlessly able to like transfer objects to each other and do a lot of things. Who's this? Yeah, like what if May and Osha, like when Osha sleeps, she teleports and becomes May? That I don't think that's the case. But that if they went that route and they did the heavy lifting involved to explain it, I would not hate that at all. But
it could also make sense based off of the pacing issue you brought up too. I mean, there could be something there of like,
oh my gosh, oh man, I hope we're not right. That would be really funny. That would explain a lot. Wow.
But there's too, I think there's too many issues of like episode 5, they're there at the same time the whole time.
Yes.
So
yeah, there would be like who was driving. It would be like a Fight Club situation where you get the reveal and you're like, well, who was driving that speeder when you shot your gun at that pole? It would be like yeah, there's too much there.
Yeah.
But that is a cool thought. I do like that a lot. That would be very creative.
But I can't help but notice. I want to circle back to it. Do you all think that there's any like? Do we need to be paying attention to how she keeps waking up so abruptly? Or I mean, again, if it would happen once, I'd be like, okay. If it happened twice, I'd be like, eh. Okay. But it's happened several times now.
So can you remind me when she does it, so I can have some context?
She does it when. Yeah, she may actually do it. When she wakes at the very first time we see her, she was
in the bed.
She sits up, and then she does it when she crash lands on the planet, in the snowy planet, which that one makes a little bit more sense. Like I think she was knocked out, and so she probably wakes up panicked. Why does she wake up panicked when she's just on the ship? Nothing has happened at that point. She says the night before, "Oh, I was out getting a tattoo or something," and then she just. The scene before that is May killing Indara, and then we see her wake up abruptly. That's where people started putting like, is she what you're saying, Travis? Either like some type of essence transfer or something going on where there's like a duality in personalities, and she's taking on 2 different bodies. Like so she does it like twice in like the first episode. I swear she does it at least one more time between episode 3 and episode 6, but she for sure does it in episode. When she wakes up on the planet, she jumps up again. Like it's happened too many times for it to be a coincidence. I feel like.
I think because like they don't necessarily have to be a dyad in the Force. I don't think they're just twins who have the Force. Luke and Leia had the Force, and that wouldn't necessarily say they were a dyad, but that's a whole other conversation. I think when you have a strong enough connection in the Force with one another, you start feeling what each other feel. When if you remember when Order 66 is happening, you cut to Yoda dropping his cane on Kashyyyk and grabbing his heart because he felt what just happened. When Han Solo gets killed by Kylo Ren, you see like Leia kind of sit down. or when like this isn't anything really new. Or even when Anakin is having the nightmare about his mom being killed, he has the same reaction where he's like, "Mom, no," and then he wakes up. I think we're just seeing, maybe it's a situation where Osha is seeing through May's eyes to an extent when she's sleeping or something like that. That'd be an interesting route, but I think it's more so they're so connected because they are like the two that are one, or whatever the rhyme was. I feel like they are just connected like that.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
No, the rhyme that they sing to each other in the woods. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head either. I can't remember either, but it's very, if I remember correctly, it's very central on the fact that yes, they are two, but they're really one, right? It's very singular in nature.
Also, we don't know what that, we do know that which one took, okay, this is a dumb question. Which one took the witch oath thingy? Was it May?
May.
Yeah. We still don't know the implication of that, if there is any at all. What did that do to her? Was there some magical power that was bestowed onto her because of that? Because we saw what those witches could do to not Kalnaka. Well, yeah, probably Kalnaka, but Torben. We saw what they were able to do to him. They were capable of some weird stuff. So is May able to do some things with, like, to Osha when she's sleeping, where she can make her do things or make her see things? I feel like if it was something like that, May is simply too, she's not evil, if that makes sense. She doesn't seem conniving, like she has the desire to hurt or manipulate her sister. Her want to be with her sister is genuine. I think her just her emotions are mixed up, to say the least.
But yeah, it's just odd because I don't think May knew anything about Osha, or at least to our knowledge. Like, she didn't know anything about Osha till that's why her reaction was so
genuine.
Yeah, when she sees Osha at the end of episode 2, it was like, "Oh, you're alive."
And that's why it's the same thing in reverse for Osha.
Yeah, but Osha's not as, if my memory serves me correctly, she's not as surprised to learn that May is still alive.
No, because she saw the vision, but still, when they saw each other, when she was pointing the stun gun at her, they still had a moment of like, no, this is an actual thing. Like, we're actually seeing each other.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like, when Yord and his apprentice comes to interrogate her, or when does she learn that it could be May? I don't know. I think there's something weird going on. I don't know. I think that there's and it could even be as early as this next episode, since we assume we're getting the flashbacks. I think we're going to learn a lot about the twins, and I saw her do it again at her wake up so abruptly at the beginning of this episode. I was like, this is just weird. It's too weird at this point for, like, surely they would have caught that in the writing of, like, okay, every time this character wakes up, she wakes up and
it's kind of like the midnight, or the midnight thing. Am I wrong?
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
Is that what you're kind of referencing?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was you who brought that up. So how is it? What's the connect? How is that? That's like, he just kind of like takes over, right?
Right. So he kind of passes out, doesn't really know what's going on, but the character of Moon Knight, forgot what.
There's Mark Spector and Jake Lockley are the two other personalities. I don't remember what I could be. Yeah, Mark Spector might be the main character, but yeah. Oh, Khonshu, sorry.
Yeah, Khonshu takes over at that point. And that's when we get Mark Spector's Moon Knight, and that's a whole different personality. But he basically gets knocked out, and Khonshu takes over at that point, and he wakes up not knowing anything. But here we're just, if you're wanting to kind of reference it, like, they both wake up abruptly, like, what just happened, type of thing. Like, they don't remember what goes on, but she can kind of see and understand what's going on.
There are also a lot of parallels to Last Jedi intentionally in this episode specifically, but the show as a whole. That movie has a lot of people waking up just like this. Remember Finn when we first meet Finn? And that he's in the bubble, he's like, Ray, and then he screams and he hits his head. Or when after Poe gets stunned, he's on the ship and Finn naked leaking bag? What are you talking about? But oh man, but Poe after Leia stuns him and they escape on the ship and Holdo stays behind to do the maneuver. Poe wakes up just like that and he's like, "What's going on?" And then he stands up, and so Luke does it too when he reaches out to Leia or whatever, and he's like, "Leia," and then he falls down or whatever. So I think that could be just a callback to Last Jedi when. Because it is a visual, like that's the first time that I ever thought in Star Wars of someone waking up like, or whatever. Technically, The Force Awakens, we see Finn, like, remember the trailer for The Force Awakens use the shot. It just shows the desert, and then all of a sudden he just pops up in his stormtrooper outfit, and he's like, and then I think,
I think to answer your question though, I don't think it's symbolizing anything. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's that.
It's a straight. It's a very scene opener line. Like suddenly her eyes burst open. It's sort of like, ooh, yeah.
It's a very Star Warsy thing. Whatever. All right.
It catches your attention and keeps you more engaged with like maybe something's gonna happen.
I think maybe she smelled like the French toast and scrambled eggs that Chimera was making, and whatever he was doing there.
Make some tasty looking soup.
Yeah.
I saw Alan from Generation Tech. I like his channel. He was like, I think he titled one of his videos like, "Come to the dark side, we have soup," or something like that.
I feel like whenever he was cooking, those birds were an ingredient in that. I know it's probably like, hopefully he didn't boil that stuff in his bath water, because I feel like he did. Like that's the nearest source of water. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's dipping a pan in there every morning.
Well,
to the dark side, we have soup. That's funny.
To kind of touch on the planet a little bit, how much longer do we have before Travis, by the way? You got to head out anytime soon here?
Oh, no. We're fine.
Okay. Because I did want to touch on, the stream that we had on Tuesday was kind of central to, I just saw a lot of things adding up to Tenebris potentially coming in, bringing in some Legends concepts. And I think we touched on it a little bit towards the beginning of this stream, but a lot of people are picking up on a lot of things, specifically about this planet. It certainly was not Ahch-To, but I think it was very similar to, it was purposefully made to look like Ahch-To, to draw parallels between Luke and Rey and Chimera and Osha and the light side, a light side user training somebody in a dark side. What it looks like to be trained as a Jedi and what it means to be trained as a Sith in different environments. But it's not Ahch-To. And so, Journeyman, I think you're going to find this particularly interesting because we didn't talk about this, but it's called Unknown Planet on screen, which somebody who I saw this on X, but I was like, he was just going on a rant. This particular person does like the Acolyte, but he was like, Lucasfilm, you can leave a planet unknown by just not giving it a name. The fact like you didn't have to put Unknown Planet on there, like just don't. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. Like, why title it Unknown Planet? If you want to keep it a mystery, just don't put anything on there. I don't know. It was kind of funny.
In Rogue One, remember, we get to they show all the titles to the planets, but then when you get to Mustafar, they don't put anything, and you're just kind of like, as the audience, you're like, oh, I know where this is.
Yeah.
Like, when you see Vader's castle and everything, you're like, oh,
you don't even
need to tell me.
So that's for Star Wars junkies, like lore junkies, like that makes sense. Because like anybody who knows Star Wars knows. So I think that this goes perfectly into what we're about to talk about here. Journeyman goes away as soon as I start to talk about it.
I thought that's just what he looked like now. That's what he is. That's his essence right there.
He got zapped. That's his essence. Yeah. Well, let me.
Circle.
I'm kind of behind on some chats, but I'm gonna go through a few until he comes back. Ali in the chat says, first take was symbolizing a change back to a Force user. Now she's transitioning to the dark side. I'm trying to look back and see if I can piece together because I think I'm missing something here. First take was symbolizing a change back to a Force user. Now she's transitioning to the dark side.
Maybe Ollie's talking about them waking up.
Yeah, maybe that, and then it goes on to say that water was different from the surrounding water, magical properties. I think so.
It's chlorinated. That's why it looks like that.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's funny.
It's also his. It doubles as his soup water. So
yeah, he's like, I got to use it for more than one thing. So, but I do I don't know. I think there is something magical about the properties of that water. Maybe we can get into that in a little bit here. It's from the Plagueis novel. Yeah, we're about to get into that. And then Unknown Planet and the Unknown Regions. Unknown and unnamed are different. Did it say unknown or unnamed? No, I can't remember. I think it said Unknown Planet.
There's something there. Like even if it was Octo, that would make sense because wait, did I say it the wrong way?
You said Octo. I heard Octo from what you said.
Yeah, that's what I've been calling it this whole time.
I call it Octo, but I don't know.
I've heard that too, but
I think it can go either way. I don't know.
I'm literally wearing a Last Jedi shirt, and I've been calling that planet the wrong thing this whole time. I've been calling it Octo.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you're right, but
you know what? When I see T and O together, I should be saying two, not toe. Like I'm gonna go to the store. Like you know what? I'm wrong. I've been wrong for like 7 years.
It doesn't really matter. You call whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. I'll follow George Lucas's example. The host system in Coruscant.
Yeah. George had a weird way of saying those things.
The Mustafar system, not the Mustafar.
Mustafar. So, going back to the planet, I got off on a tangent there. This is interesting. So people have already connected the dots to what this is. It's a planet, potentially, we don't know for sure, but it's a planet called Baldimnic. Well, maybe I'm saying that wrong. Baldimnic, whatever. Baldemnic. Ali says here, where is it? It's a planet from the Plagueis novel, which if we know anything about the Plagueis novel, this is a story about Palpatine and Plagueis and Tenebris, who is Plagueis' master, is mentioned in this novel, specifically at the beginning. And let me just read you the description of this. I took a screenshot of it. But the planet Baldimnic is an ocean planet. This is Legends from the Plagueis novel. Just listen closely here. Is an ocean planet in Star Wars with a harsh climate and hostile native species that make it unappealing to most people. However, it does have beautiful beaches, giant rock cliffs, and vast oceans, and is of interest to cartographers, xenobiologists, and fisher folk. Don't know that. Now, here's the thing. The planet also has rich deposits of cortosis ore, which drew attention of Sith Lords Darth Tenebris and Darth Plagueis. During the Clone Wars, the Confederacy of Independent Systems tried to mine cortosis from Baldimnic's crust, which led to the Battle of Baldimnic. Now, we see, I didn't even catch on to this. See, this is why I need to watch episodes. But when she looks up and she sees that mineral in the side of the rock towards the end of the episode, right before she puts on the mask. Do you remember that, Dre?
I remember that. No.
Okay, well, because it was kind of like it just kind of happens, and you're like, why is she looking at the wall? Well, she's noticing that it's cortosis. She sees cortosis in the side of the mountain. And so this planet, Baldimnik, is in the Plagueis novel. This is the same planet in the Plagueis novel where Plagueis actually kills Tenebris. And the fact that it's an ocean planet with giant rock cliffs, with cortosis mines, I mean, come on. Is anybody going to dispute that this is if they're not going to call it Baldimnik? I mean, that's what they were going for when they created this planet, right? Anybody going to dispute that?
I'd hate to hear how I would have mispronounced that planet title if I didn't get it right. Also,
well,
I think it's Disney. They want to get us close to it, but they're not going to give us the full thing, and that's why they're like, unnamed or unknown planet. We're not going to give it to you. You're going to figure that.
You're going to figure it out yourself.
I love how it says there's species that are undesirable to people, and I'm like those birds. Yeah, those are undesirable. Like they look like they had
it says hostile native species. So then those things are hostile.
They look like they had their heads replaced with flaming hot Cheetos. So I guess I would find that pretty undesirable if I were on a planet that looked like that. I'm like, oh, what's up with this thing?
Well, like I said, it says that it's a hostile native species. So maybe those little suckers are hostile. I don't know.
Maybe it's the evil versions of those nuns from The Last Jedi, who instead of
an evil porg, an evil porg.
I feel like they're trying to make the cutest thing, and they're really like the cat in Captain Marvel. And we're like, oh, it's a cute cat, but then it's just like a giant alien that attacks everyone.
Goose the cat, and he's a flurkin. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, we all know they're just trying to Disney, as we always say.
That thing
only
took
money.
Only money.
Let's create the cutest looking little thing that we can do, so we can sell some stuffed animals and.
We see Wattos trying to sell seashells on this planet.
Only money. No, so I mean, this is the planet, right? This is the planet from Legends.
I would like that.
I think that we're bringing in. I personally believe we're bringing in Tenebris. I suppose some people don't think that that's going to happen. Do I think that we're necessarily going to see the species Bith come in and it's going to be this? I don't know. But I'll tell you this:
my question is, can it be Tenebris or does it have to be Plagueis though? That's because we're still.
I mean, obviously, the Legends timelines don't matter because, I mean, obviously we saw the uproar with Kayindi and all that, his birthday, whatever. Yeah. But based off of what we know, I believe it would make more sense for it to be Tenebris than it would be to be Plagueis. I think Plagueis would be very, very young at this point, I believe.
Ryan, you need to do a poll on how did you guys pronounce Octu and October?
I know.
I'm starting to see it in the comments where I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, I get it. I put Tony says Octo is what I've been calling it for years.
No, it doesn't sound
LED
right
says
to me.
I've always called it Octu. Yeah, I guess I've always called it. I've always called it the Octu. Yeah.
Because people you and her can read. I guess I can't.
No, I literally heard that. Maybe it was Leslie Headland who was saying it. I swore I heard somebody say it the other day. I was watching an interview and they said it differently. And I was like, oh, that's how you say that? But thank you for acknowledging that I'm saying it right. Because yes, if you read it, it is Octu.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I was wondering why people at Journeyman, he was confused when I said it that way. And I always thought, I'm pronouncing this right because
I wasn't making fun of you. I was just I've never heard it.
No, you were using logic, and I'm just like you and I'm just like, oh, he was reading it like words. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I want to go to school.
He can
now.
read. Yeah,
I did go to college.
Napoleon Dynamite. Your mom goes to college.
That's good.
Sorry, I'm taking us off the rails again.
No, that's literally all the notes. I think I touched on everything. Osha waking up abruptly, the planet ball Dimnik, Chimera in a back to tank, Senator Ray in court, Mog, Chimera being a Jedi a really long time ago, and then we touched on the Force dyad possibility. LAB says, I can read words. Yeah. Allie says Star Wars equals 1 droid and 2 teddy bears per show minimum.
Exactly.
There you go.
It's all about the money.
That's a good ratio. When I was a kid, as a kid, I feel awful. In Return of the Jedi, when that one Ewok gets blown up and then his buddy like is crying over him, I always thought that was the funniest thing in the world when I was a kid. My friends and I would watch it, we'd gather around the TV and we'd rewind that scene so many times. But as an adult, I'm like, oh man, I was like, what was wrong with me? That's sad.
I always had the opposite reaction to that. I was like, this is really, really sad.
But I love it was more so like the Ewok's reaction when he gets up. He's like, you gonna get up?
Yeah. And he's
No.
like, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my favorite thing about Star Wars is the droids and Clone Wars. But it's always Grievous and the droids. And just, Spare the Jedi are coming.
Yeah.
They
have some good liners.
In Revenge of the Sith, I love the droid. I always love this part where the battle droids are holding the lightsabers and he just rips them out of his hand and the droid goes, "You're welcome." And he walks
You're
away.
welcome. Yeah.
Okay, if it was the Clone Wars, Grievous would have punched his head off. Like that happens so much in that show.
Mm-hmm. That raises something. That was funny too. I saw this meme the other day. I think it was on Instagram. Dreamman, I may have sent it to you. No, if I didn't send it to you, I should have, because it was like, you know, when Grievous gets off the ship, when he gets on Utapau. Did I send this one to you?
Maybe. Just keep talking and all.
But he gets it off, and it's like this very like, you hear the choir, and it's like dun dun dun. It's like, and he's just getting off a ship. And it's like, I don't know, I can't even remember exactly what it said, but it was like George Lucas telling John Williams, we need a score of this droid getting off the ship. What can you come up with? And it's just like this like powerful, right. Like,
because every other time we saw him, like the door opens, there's bum 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 bum, and he's like, like now he gets off. He gets off. He has the cup of Dunkin' Donuts, and he's just like, and then just like he's like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it's like this very like powerful, like just evoking thing. And it's like, what was funny about it was the actual meme was this guy who was like on his knees, like his arms extended out, playing a piano. I was just on fire, and it was like John Williams writing the score for this scene. It's like just this. I don't know. It was just funny. If I didn't send that to you, I should have sent it to you.
Hilarious
scene.
And...
Okay, what's the one where they like crash on a planet? It was like one of the first like memes that we watched, and they get off the ship and they say something, and like Grievous just like slaps them or something. He like says something funny, and I can't remember what it was. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. There's so many of those though. It's just like in the first episode, they're like, "Stop! I said stop!" I don't know. The droids are so funny.
Yeah, that'll never be a negative for me. That first episode. Oh yeah, that first episode deals with species, and it was called Ambush, I believe. That was the first episode. They're trying to recruit the dignitary from Toydaria into the Republic, because every episode is Count Dooku is bad. The Jedi are trying to get this planet to join the Republic, but the Separatists are going to come and screw it all up. And I'm just like, but there's that part. It has one of my favorite lines where Yoda is talking to all the clones, and he's like, "Rrr." That's not my favorite line. But when he says, "Rrr," sorry, he's like, "Rrr." Doing the episode 5 Yoda. Sorry, he's like, "Clones you may be, but the Force surrounds all living things." I always thought that was nice. I'm like, oh, he's acknowledging that an artificial creation of life still has a place in the Force, which is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, Yoda. Yoda.
Oh, yeah, but back to the music thing quickly. There's a part in the Phantom Menace that is so bizarre. And go back and watch it. If you have Disney Plus, you can find it pretty quick. It's during the big battle where we're cutting between Padme getting to the temple, Padme in the in Theed, we have Anakin attacking the Trade Federation, Jar Jar, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. There's a part where I think it's right after. Oh, it's when Anakin takes off with the ship and R2-D2. There's like a really upbeat version of the Star Wars theme. It's like da, 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 and it's really it's building up, and then all of a sudden it cuts to a random like Naboo palace guard getting shot, and then it's ba, 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 ba,
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, that's a meme right there where you just insert something really bad that guy did in his life. That one guard, like, he actually did this, so that's why it was triumphant when he died. He was always late for work.
I know what you're talking about. And there's also that slow build up to it. It's like, and then she like shoots, and then yeah. That's what you're talking about.
Oh man.
Good times.
I wish there were more funny droids. I wish they had like another funny droid like the droids in Clone Wars. That was so great.
I'm sure you can. I mean, I know for sure there's a YouTube compilation out there. Yeah.
You know what? One of the biggest crimes in Ahsoka is, where is AP5, the protocol droid they got in Rebels? Who is he sounds like Alan Rickman, the one that's with Chopper. He's like, no.
Yes, yeah.
And there's that one part where he gets lost in the void of space, and he's like, I'm so happy, everything's so quiet, and then he starts singing, and then like all these butterflies start going around him, and then the ship picks him up, and he's like, no, I was so happy, and you hear him like thunk as he gets. Where is that guy?
Something must have happened to that droid, right? Like, because he's not in season 4.
That was weird. He might have been in one episode, but they really set him. He's like in season 3, he's there quite a bit. Like he was going to be a major part of the show, and then they kind of dropped him. I think it's because they had too many serious things going on, maybe. But
yeah. Something may have happened. I don't know. I can't remember now.
Yeah. Also, AZ3 from the last season of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch, another favorite of mine. He's like, I desire to feel emotions like you, but I can't. So goodbye. I love him.
Droids are great. I love a good Star Wars droid. Oh yeah. Even Hu Yang from Ahsoka is pretty
Hu Yang.
Yeah. Chopper is the best though.
Hu Yang.
I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a joke or if this is the truth. It says Chopper killed him. I don't know.
No, Chopper brought him back to life. He died, and he's like,
he brought him back to life, and then he killed him again.
Yeah, he's like, I forgot what he gives up. He's like, you gave it up for me. Well, you shouldn't have, and then he starts yelling at him.
Okay, clarification, speculation. Here we go. Just there you go, Ollie. It's just speculation.
I love one more thing.
First the Sith Lord.
Remember Hu Yang when he's explaining to Carson Teva when he's like, Kanan Jarrus was his father. He was a Jedi Knight. And then as if to like that one person explaining to their friend who hadn't seen Rebels. And then he's like, okay, cool. And they just walk away. Yeah. He's like, I don't care who that guy is.
He's like, great.
Thank you. Thank you for this information that I didn't want.
Oh, that's good. I'm on a Ahsoka rewatch right now, and I love Ahsoka so much. I can't wait for season 2. Like, I need it as soon as possible. But I don't know enough about this to go into too much detail. But apparently there were some leaks out too of the Skeleton Crew. They have the names of all the characters, and apparently Jude Law's character is just named, I kid you not, Jode.
Oh,
Jod or Jod, I guess.
Well,
I guess it would be Jod.
I like it. That doesn't, because I was expecting you to say Carl or something weird.
Hi, I'm Carl.
Yeah, it's just Jod. and all the other kids.
John. It sounds like someone with a New York accent saying something. It's John. How's it going? My name is John. How you doing? Ghostbusters. What do you want?
I hope that show is good. I don't. I'm nervous
All
about it.
indications what we heard what we've been listening to is it's not great. Like that's why they've been delaying it so much.
Well, the production was not great. The actual show, I don't know. That's undisputable. The production was not good, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have high hope. I have hopes for that show. Because I wasn't interested in the Acolyte, like because I was reading like the High Republic, and like I think there's something about some people really like the Old Republic and stuff like that going way before, but I think like me, I like Star Wars because of the 1 to like episodes 1 through 6 or 1 through 9. So it was tough to imagine anything before that because it kind of takes away all the things that I know and like about Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm surprised by this show. Andor, you're taking the secondary character in a movie that came out like almost 10 years ago, and you're going to make him the main character, even though we know he dies. And he was also not a really good person when we meet him. And that's one of the best things ever that Star Wars has ever done, in my opinion. So I'm really curious. And just in concept, like it's one thing to note is all of these projects are kind of outside of what Star Wars is known for. Andor, it was nothing like what Star Wars has been. The Acolyte was marketed as something completely different than what Star Wars has been, like this darkside murder mystery. That's not really what it is. I think everyone was picturing something different. But Skeleton Crew is the first one where it seems inherently true to what Star Wars is up front. Like this is a pilot with a bunch of weird looking kids. That sounded really mean. A bunch of like kids and a weird looking elephant dude having adventures in the galaxy, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like Star Wars to me. Andor is Andor, the Acolyte's Acolyte. Star Wars is like Skeleton Crew just seems like Star Wars, if that makes sense. It feels like it's really going back to that 80s fantasy puppet era of Star Wars.
Yeah. But, no, I have high hopes because of the rumors that we had heard. I think we talked about it last week too when we were talking about Appleoth, but I have not heard this in a long time. But at one time, it was supposed to be taking in place of this New Beyond. Whenever Peridia and the galaxy Ahsoka finds herself in was called the New Beyond, at that time, the rumors were that the Skeleton Crew were going to be taking place there, which I think would be fascinating. I think that would be good for the show too, because kind of like what you're saying, Travis. At face value, what you're saying, I think like makes sense of like we're kind of like taking it back. But to be honest, like I think it would be a lot better if we took it back and we took it to somewhere new, and so we could have those adventures in a new place, not in a place of where we already know kind of what's all going on.
I think since they introduced the new Star Wars galaxy, like it would kind of just be weird that we get the Ahsoka show and they're still in Peridia, right? But like we basically get there and we're going back already, and that's kind of what happened in season 2. It's like we got here, we're sending Ezra back, we're kind of staying here, but eventually we're going to go back. I feel like they need to incorporate it more in like let's visit some other planets or do whatever so that we can actually have somewhat of a space for that, not just be like, we're going to go visit one planet.
Well, what I think is interesting is what are they trying to set up with the show? Because it's not like the show is standing on its own. It's not like it's an Andor or a Kenobi. Like this is taking place in the wider Mandalorian Mandoverse, whatever you want to call it. So what are they setting up with the show? Because we're all talking about an Avengers team up in the end. Are we just going to have Elephant Dude and his band of kids show up at the end and like Avengers style? Like, no, we know that's not going to happen. At least I can't see that happening. Am I crazy or like so what are they setting up with
I can
the show?
see a picture. I can see a picture of it though. That'd be great.
Like how are they fitting into this?
One thing I always love in movies and TV shows when they show you a scene from a different movie or something, but it's from someone else's perspective, and you get this, you find out later what's going on, where you see something like, oh, that's that. Like in that one episode of Book of Boba Fett where he finds Fennec. Well, no, it's right before he finds Fennec. We see him in the desert, and all of a sudden you just start seeing lights go off in the sky on Tatooine, and you hear the sting of the Mandalorian music.
Yes.
And you're just like, you have to piece together, like, oh, that's him at Mando and Toro distracting. They're trying to disrupt the binoculars of the Sand People. You're just like, oh, so it would be cool. Sorry, if we went like a Forrest Gump route in that we should start seeing all the events of the Mandalorian show, like what these kids were doing during that, and then like they end up crossing paths with everybody. Like that would be kind of cool. And of course, inevitably, like imagine like they're just trying to fly around a ship, like they're in like a hyperspace like course or something, and Jude Law is yelling at them to stop touching everything. And then like they get a notification like there's like several hyperspace anomalies, and then like a flood of Purgle just start going past them, and they're all going to Peridia. That's where, and like they're and they have to like navigate all these Purgle, and they get stuck in it, like something like that, where you're kind of like, oh, and like you see Ahsoka, and you're just like, oh my gosh, they're like, what's going on? I think it would be nice, like especially since people think that whole era is convoluted and it's confusing, having a bunch of kids as your focal characters who don't know what's going on, experiencing all of these events from the perspective like of kids, going like, what is happening? I think that would be kind of cool. I don't think that's exactly what's going to happen, but that would be neat, I think.
Yeah, it'd be neat. I don't want them to, I mean, as cool as that would be, I don't know if I want a whole project. Like, I don't know. I'm worried about the show mostly for what it will do to the, what the Acolyte has divided. And I'm worried that the skeleton crew will do the same.
So about this comet though, didn't the pirate die in season 3? So is this like before season 3?
Sorry, I forgot I even brought this up. Yeah, I had heard this too, Tony, that the main antagonist is the pirate. So obviously it will take place before the Mandalorian season 3.
No, I know what he's talking about. I know what Tony's talking about. Gorian Shard was the main Davy Jones looking one. He died.
Yes.
But what's his face? There was the sleazy one that Mando gets into a shootout with. He like shoots all of his buddies outside the bar. He's like this skinny looking one. He's a I forgot what the species was, but the ones with the spikes all over his face. I forgot what his name, but he like flies away. Do you know what I'm talking about? You'd have to look him up. But
it's in the Mandalorian season 3?
Yep. It was in the episode where they're fighting over
Is it Dathomirian? Is he
Navarro? Captain, like Jedi Master, I'm gonna die, or whatever his name was from the Clone Wars. It was that species. But I can't remember it. Yes, I know. Thane, that was his name. Thane. He's standing outside when Mando visits Greef Karga. There's a bunch of people standing outside a bar, and then Mando shoots a bunch of them. He shoots Thane in the hand, and then Thane runs off. And then Thane comes back with Gorian Shard, and he's flying around in the ships. And then when Gorian Shard is like, everyone starts getting blown up, Thane says something like, oh, he's the same species as Hondo Ohnaka, I'm pretty sure. That guy. But he says something like, this isn't worth it. And then he like books it. I think that's what Tony's talking about.
Interesting. Okay. I'm trying to.
Yeah, because I've heard that too, that they'll cross paths with Thane.
Thane.
Yeah, I don't know how. Don't ask me how to pronounce that or spell it.
Mando's next villain is evil Luke coming to kidnap Grogu for keeping him.
Interesting.
That's something.
Interesting. Yeah, I have high hopes. We'll see what comes of it. So, well, I think that pretty much sums up everything that I had. Do you guys have anything else?
I don't have anything else.
I'm sorry. I see the Hondo top 10 character. I really like Hondo, but in Rebels, Rebels is fantastic. In some ways, I like it more than Clone Wars. But when you watch it like isolated and you watch the character designs between Clone Wars and Rebels, some of the characters in Rebels they really got done dirty. I think, and I think Hondo is one of them. He went from looking like a cool like Jack Sparrow looking guy to like a yoga grandmother who shops at the grocery store. Like he just looks like he looks like he just looks like the hip grandmother with the short poofy hair, smoking cigarettes. Yeah, I'm just like, man, that does not look like the same guy.
I was never a fan of the animation style for Rebels, but
Rex
man,
looks like a. Rex
but the story,
like,
story did it.
Mm-hmm.
For,
peak Star Wars for sure. Some of my favorite Star Wars. Yeah, good stuff. Well, I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you for coming on and chatting about this. I think we had a really good discussion about the Acolyte. You know, one thing that I was thinking about, no matter how you feel about the show, I feel like this is some of the best speculation. I love the speculation piece of Star Wars. That's kind of like why we started the channel, just wild speculation. That's kind of the brand I like to have on the channel. If you go back and watch my videos, it's all just like extremely wild speculation that's probably not going to happen, but it's just fun to think about. And I feel like that's what's been cool about this show is it's ignited that back. There's the ability to speculate a lot, and so I think that's why I'm enjoying the show. But yeah, hopefully it sticks to land. I think a lot of people are skeptical that it's not going to end in a satisfying way. We'll see. There's only 2 episodes left, but then there's still a lot of ground to cover in terms of what has gone on and what we know. So we'll see. But anyway, join us on Tuesday. We'll be having a discussion after the episode airs to talk about what's going on with that. And then hopefully next Thursday, we should be able to come back on and talk about any Star Wars news that's dropped. So with that, I appreciate you all being here. We're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. May the Force be with you always.